off it. Yeah, excuse me, Havoc Master's been a real asshole lately. He's always been an asshole. He doesn't like anybody. He put that show on about Fazio, and Fazio singing that song, YouTube is my life, YouTube is my life. Well, it was his life. And I think life is better without this piece of shit. I'm just going to say it out loud. The world's a better place without Michael Fazio. That applies to other trolls on here that I'm definitely not going to shed a tear when their time comes. Now, Havoc Master's been an asshole making comments about my girlfriend, that she shot 8 kids out of her, this and that and all that, and he's been making like a lot of rude comments, you know. And this guy's been married to a Filipina for like 37 years or something. So, you know, there's no talk about crusty vaginas here, actually, in his wordings, but shit, married 37 years, how old is she? 70? Okay, so Havoc Master has no place to talk about my girlfriend at all. Shit, my girlfriend's only 49. I don't know how old his is. Then again, Havoc Master's not a young man anymore either. And I've seen this picture when he decided to put his face on camera. What a goofy looking fucker this guy is. Yeah, he sure is. And as far as anybody celebrating Michael Fazio's death, well, or his life, according to how you want to look at it, one troll gone. That's the way I see it. Look, I'm not going to pretend and take the high road like all these people do. I'm, you know, not necessarily happy about death, but just generally happy that he's not around anymore. Michael Fazio was no hero. He was no legend. He was nothing but a lonely, disgusted, disturbed man. That's all he was. He didn't care about anybody but himself. Everything had to do with a dollar sign on it with him. That kind of rubbed wrong with his relationships with people. It all had to do with the dollar bill. And I know people are trying to survive, and in some cases you could understand. But in Fazio's case, everything was involved around money. He didn't care who he maimed, hurt, or whatever. He didn't give a fuck. So that's why I get tired of hearing shit about Fazio. And these are all people trying to take the high road when they were definitely on the low road with him. That's the funny thing about all this. Everybody trying to take the high road, but they did not like him at all. And about all of them that are taking the high road had problems with this guy. Again, oh, I know. Let the man rest in peace. I get it. I do, actually. But in light of a few shows in the past few days that I've seen, in regards to him, I truly think the world is a better place without this piece of shit. Why should I pretend and take the high road? These people are all contradicting themselves by taking the high road. They want to look clean and without sin, but they're not. Because they're in the same, some of them are on the same level that he was. As far as I'm concerned, got rid of another troll. More to come, in more ways than one. Nature, law, whatever the case might be, they're going down on their own, some without the help of me. He was no hero. He was no goddamn legend. He was nobody. He was a piece of shit with a big mouth and a big body who was extremely unhealthy, who did not give a shit about anybody but himself. But the one thing he did neglect was his own health. And nobody's to blame but himself, the fact that he has passed on. Nobody. But we also have to consider something else too. Look, I don't mind going on YouTube. I do a lot of shows, even a lot lately, but I've been on for a long time. So I'll just speak for myself. It's one thing to have YouTube as part of your life in some form or way, but to make YouTube your entire life, that's another story. And Michael Fazio basically lived for YouTube because he didn't have a family like me or some of you people. He had nobody. And when his pretend girlfriend left his premises years ago, he became really bitter. And anybody who'd listened to him from that point in time knows that there was a big change going on from that time. We could end this trilogy or whatever of Fazio. I'm sure everybody's going to end it at some point here. Of course, there's always going to be some reference brought up to him because he's been on for a long time. Fazio didn't contribute to society in any way at all. He was self-guided, self-centered, selfish, period. He used and abused people to get what he wanted. I'm certainly not going to make a hero out of him. And anybody else who does is just kidding themselves. Or they're trying to take the high road as far as how people viewed him. In other words, how dare do you talk about Michael Fazio in that way? Well, most of you did. And then you took the high road when he died, right? Isn't that what really happened? The guy was a prick. Let's face it, he was a prick. And yes, I am talking about the dead. It's different if I had a different opinion about him when he was alive. But my opinion hasn't changed whether he's alive or dead. He either was a prick while he was alive or not. The fact that he's passed on doesn't make him any less of a fucking prick. Now, that might sound cold to some of you people, and some of you have maybe even verbalized it, but then who verbalized it? Trolls, troublemakers, who don't have a fucking peg leg to stand on, who they themselves are in some ways just as bad as Fazio was. Followed the same line of hate, mental disturbances, lonely, and miserable. The fact is, Mr. Fazio did not have a life, as you would know it. Did not have a girlfriend. Maybe he never had one his entire life, perhaps. That's quite possible. He died the saddest way in the world, and I don't mean about the neglect to his body. He died a lonely man, and that's worse in this world of passing on when you have not lived a genuine life. When your life revolved around the desktop, on the computer, that's when, well, first of all, he should have, excuse the line, curbed his enthusiasm from a TV show. I certainly understand if you have lonely moments in your life, but it's really up to you to change your life. Nobody could change that for you. This applies to really anybody on here. It's up to you to change your life, to make it better, to do things that are better than you've done before. And as you are aging, you realize these things a whole lot more than you did when you were younger. If anything, you should be trying to make your life better some form of way. Don't be living in a little unhygienic shack. That didn't help him at all. It didn't help him at all, that's for sure. And look, I understand that he wasn't the most attractive man in the world. He was overweight, loudmouth, the whole bit. And I understand it would be really hard for him to get a girlfriend. So Daisy was the closest thing in the world to him as a girlfriend. He tried to pretend that it was his girlfriend. Well, real man has a girlfriend, right? A real man concept with Michael Fazio. Well, I have a lot of words for that. Hilarious. I could probably give a half hour of defining what a real man really is. He wasn't a real man. Not one bit. The world is a better place without Mr. Michael Thomas Fazio, as far as I am concerned, and I'm certainly not going to change my mind. I am not going to take the high road on this. Like all these phony balonies out there, all of a sudden they're honoring him. For what? I mean, seriously, for what? For lying? For scamming? Everything from the hotel to everything he talked about and what he did in life or claims he did? I can blame it on a lot of things. Mental instability. Okay, that's certainly on the list. Loneliness is certainly on the list. That's probably number one. I've seen people change that way. One of my jobs was working outdoors most of the time. And I've witnessed people in parks that were like that. They were even talking to themselves because nobody else would. And probably a lot of people did not want to really talk to him outside of his computer. But he had an audience that he thought was a captive audience, but it wasn't. Those are the only people that would actually listen to his bullshit. I, honestly, if I listened to one of his shows, I could seriously, and I don't sleep during the day. It's not something I do. I could listen to his show and start nodding out. And maybe he was a remedy for sleep for me. The biggest windbag you've ever heard, certainly on the top of the list. There are others, but I think he was on top of the list as being the biggest windbag. A man that could do his show for 6 to 8 hours at a time straight. Who can do that? So his whole life was in that little shack with his computer or phone. And his whole world. Look, I understand if you like YouTube, you like commenting, you like watching YouTube, you do shows on YouTube. But to make YouTube your whole entire existence, not have a partner in life, don't really have any friends at all, period, whether it's Filipino or foreigner, that's a sad way of living. So was he really living? Although his heart was beating, his blood was pumping, was he really living a good life? In consideration of many factors, his mental health totally went. Totally gone. His physical health went. He was a ticking time bomb for many years, and I realized that a long time ago. My prediction was correct. I don't know exactly. I'm not some kind of sorcerer that could figure out this kind of shit, but there's some logical factors that are involved here that spoke out and said, yeah, this guy's going to expire sometime real soon. There's no question about it. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend. And I wasn't going to talk about Ashley Fazio until I seen that other video. And the very people that attacked Fazio were taking the high road. And you know who all the players are. Popeye hated Fazio. Havoc Master was not a fan of Fazio. That's bullshit. He's taking the high road with him. Yeah. When somebody's dead, right? You take the high road. Is that how it works? Really? The guy was a scumbag. Echo those words through your head. Yes, it's coming from me. I'm not going to put the transmission in reverse and say anything different than that. Guy was a piece of shit, and the world is a better place without him. If you did not see the dark side of this guy, then you weren't looking. Or you are not one of his victims. One or the other. Hopefully, there is a better place that he can go to other than life. Who knows? Life after death, who knows? Who the fuck knows? But wherever he is, I hope he finds a better existence than he had. If there's life after death, some form or crazy way, having another existence, I certainly hope there's not a computer in the picture. Because he's not going to get anywhere. I don't think there's any computers in hell, truthfully. That I don't. Just wanted to say that before I hit the sheets later. For those people that are trying to put him on a high horse, like he's some kind of a legend or something, he was a legend, sure. In his own mind, his own sick, twisted mind. There was nothing normal about this guy that modern society defines as normal when it comes to somebody's psychological situation. There was nothing normal about this guy. The things he did behind the scenes, whether you're aware of it or not, were not cool. Just another troll gone. That's the way I see it. There'll be others following him, I'm sure. But I will say, with conviction, the world is a better place without him. But then again, the world really didn't know much about him. Just people on YouTube. And people either loved him for whatever reason, very few, or hated him. There was no in between, I think, with this guy. I didn't hate him, but I sure didn't like him. There's nothing wrong with my memory. Don't want to mock the dead. I'm mocking the man when he was alive, not mocking him when he's dead. There's no one to mock. You can only mock living entities, but he's no longer living. And there's nothing new about what I'm saying about him. I'm being very redundant from all the time that he was alive. He was not my favorite person for damn good reasons. At first, I thought it was a scam or a hoax when they said that he died. I said, well, what if he did? Did this man even have a reason to be alive? I don't know what he had to wake up in the morning to. Really, he didn't have a life. What we might call his life. Yeah, there was blood pumping through his veins, but hardly. It was all infected. He basically pulled the trigger on himself is what he did. But YouTube did not help him. I think YouTube has put him under a lot of undue stress. It could have that effect on people. But it wasn't the stress that killed him. It was his loneliness. It was his own psychology that killed him, ironically. He was a stick of dynamite ready to blow up at any time. Physiologically or mentally. He already blew up mentally. And he totally lost it when Daisy had left the residence. Remember, that was not his girlfriend, not even remotely. But his idea of a real man is to try to present to his neighbors or even existing family members that, hey, I got a girlfriend. Her name is Daisy. Because he didn't want to look like an old man who was alone. It made him feel proud and like a real man to have a woman by his side. But most people did not know that she was just an acquaintance. It was not his girlfriend, never was. They never sealed the deal. And quite frankly, I don't know how physically he would have been able to do that anyway. Rest in peace, Chris, if that's where you are. I'd feel sorry for that little rascal to a certain point, but Chris and Sabu was not innocent at all. Guess you never heard him on Discourse. No, he was not the innocent little squirrel that ran around Fuente Circle, saying hi to everybody around the country, talking about the weather. He was not Mr. Congenial. Trust me on that, he was not. If you've seen the other side of Chris, you'd understand exactly what I'm saying. So don't really judge a book by its cover, or do you? Maybe you just haven't opened up the cover of that book to see the real story, instead of just looking at the preface of the book. It's no way of understanding what's in that book. You gotta read it, the whole book, to understand the person. Look, I would not normally wish that on him, his passing, but I welcome the fact that he is off YouTube now. We don't have to hear his loudmouth anymore. Don't have to hear his insults. Don't have to hear his tall tales, all lies, stretching the truth to the point of couldn't stretch it anymore. What he did behind the scenes did not make him a good man. So all you pretenders out there, taking the high road, shame on you. You gotta live with yourself. You know who he was, and you know who he did. There's certain people on here that I certainly wouldn't shed a tear for anybody on here, actually. Certainly nobody from YouTube, and certainly not the trolls. I wouldn't shed a tear for anybody on here, as they wouldn't shed a tear for me. But that's okay, because unlike Mr. Fazio, YouTube is just an element in my life because I do shows. But in Mr. Fazio's case, his whole life was actually YouTube. His whole life. There's the eulogy for him. The eulogy of truth. The world, or at least certainly the community, is a better place with him being gone. Unless you have that much time on your hands, you spent that much time listening to this guy, you were probably in the same situation he was in. Lonely and extremely miserable. With that being said, go ahead, take the high road. You do that. But we remember what you all said about him, what you thought about him, the very people that are taking that so-called proverbial high road, all bullshit artists. Seems that's all we have on here is bullshit artists living the great life. I don't know. Who's living the great life out there, in all honesty? I don't know of one YouTuber out there that's living and has proved it, that they're living the better life than another YouTuber. Who's proven it? Remember, the best revenge is living well. I'm doing okay. I'm not going to sing the song, Ding Dong, the witch is dead, the wicked witch is dead. But I think the community is a better place without him. One less troll. And Havoc Master, shove it up your fucking ass. He came on my show sometime today, left a rude comment. And he left some comments on the last show he put on. He doesn't come on YouTube as a, he's not an active YouTube channel, but he does. He did put on a couple of things, and one was on Fazio. If you read the comments on there, you know how rude he was. Shit, he's been married to the same woman like 37 years or something. I don't remember all his comments, but in the past he said a whole lot about my girlfriend. Well, his became Americanized. It's punishment enough for him. He came on somebody's show, finally showed his face. He was an ugly motherfucker with a mustache and a fat face. Oh, big surprise, fat face, okay. Who isn't obese on here? Other than maybe myself and somebody else. Living well is the best revenge, and I'll leave it at that. Exactly what it is. And a lot of keyboard warriors taking the high road. You know who you are. There's not many people out there that liked Michael at all. And what, now that he's dead, does that change the things he did? Simply because he's passed on, he can't do any more shows, makes him a hero? Hell no. He's still the same person he was, only he's dead. You don't have to hear his loudmouth all the time, banging a pot like a fucking retard. He's gone. Face the reality. I'm not going to say I'm happy about it in the sense that I'm happy that somebody died. I'm just happy that there's one less fucking troll that I got to deal with on here. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with my memory. I know what he's done. Oh, I know what he's done. He wasn't a good man. Why should I lie about it? Why should I take the stance that, well, the guy died? Have a little heart. Well, I do have a little heart if somebody died. I don't think of them in their death. I think of them in their life when they were living and the things they did. So everything gets, what? Justified when they die? I don't think so. I really don't think so. That's how it works. Don't work that way for me. If you do the crime, you got to do the time. And you get what's coming to you. If you didn't take care of your body, you get your infections taken care of. You sat on your ass all day on the computer, hardly even left the property that you're leasing, had no respect for others, scammed people. It's quite a resume. Quite a resume. And not really a good one.